Should Facebook pay us for our posts? Of course, the idea sounds absolutely crazy because posting personal photos on Facebook is not a chore, it's fun and billions of people love to do it. In fact, a great majority of Facebook's 2.8 billion daily users spend the better part of an hour doing just that every day. But the idea is gaining momentum that Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, YouTube, and the other tech giants offering free online services from which they harvest our data should pay for every nugget of information they read. And why not? Without us, they wouldn't exist in their current form. This would be a paradigm shift and very possibly the next internet business unicorn. And it will definitely undermine the data titan's stranglehold on technology's future, breathing fresh air into an economy losing its vitality. Digital data is the oil of the 21st century and should be treated as property rights under law. Digital titans use our collected data to make billions while not always paying close enough attention to protecting it. Data is the crucial ingredient of the AI revolution and their business models. Facebook, YouTube, and Google offer advertisers precisely targeted audiences based on user profiles. Still, this pales in comparison with how valuable data has become as the footprint of artificial intelligence extends across the economy. Yet transforming the relationship we users have with digital titans could resolve one of the most relevant questions in this new tech age. Who really controls our own data? Google, Facebook, and Amazon's dominance could be eroded if rivals made direct offers of money for our data. More importantly, they would not be able to extend their network effects that cemented their place at the top of the technology ecosystem to the world of AI. The big question, of course, is how do we get there from here? Don't look to the government to intercede on users' behalf, and certainly don't expect Google or Facebook to start paying for users' data voluntarily as an altruistic gesture. But there may be another way to take the bull by the horns and beat the digital tech giants at their own game, which is why the Insider exclusive news team is on location in Pleasant Grove, Utah, filming a special Insider exclusive edition with Dr. Richard S. Dick, internationally recognized IT expert, and Steve Sumption, CEO and founder of Sumption Business Law, to discuss Dr. Dick's revolutionary new patent, the 978, that facilitates an individual's control over their own data and puts them back in the driver's seat. His company, MyConsents, LLC, licensed the 978 patented technology to empower individuals to regain their privacy and will also allow them to be remunerated for the data they consent to share. This is the Insider exclusive, live from Utah. It is my great pleasure to introduce Steve Sumption and Dr. Richard Dick to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Good to have you guys here today. We're at the Tribe House, which we will talk about a little bit later, but it's basically kind of a network of professionals that help each other, right, Steve?
That's correct. It creates an opportunity for professionals to meet, greet, and develop a relationship, a business relationship.
And your law firm primarily practices business law, correct?
That's correct. We're one of the few law firms that have the term business in its name.
We're here today because one of your clients, MyConsents LLC, and its chairman, Dr. Richard Dick, is here. You're going to tell us a little bit about what you do and what MyConsents LLC is all about. Please tell us.
Thank you. I have a kind of a strange combination, but I actually planned it that way. I have a combination of computers and medicine background. I was in a special MD PhD program, and have worked in computers for over 50 years, have designed and built a lot of systems, been a serial entrepreneur. And one of the ways that I got into this with MyConsents was I started a company whereby we built the largest drug databases in America, if not the world. It's over 300 million Americans' drug data updated every night by all 60,000, 80,000 now retail pharmacies. And we had to solve a lot of problems with that. Prior to that, I had been, it's important to point out, I've had a long history with privacy. No one has a longer history with HIPAA than I do. When I was at the National Academy of Sciences, whereby we had the notorious track record of 70% of the recommendations coming out of the Academy became law. When they speak, the Congress doesn't just listen, they act. Therefore, I wrote the documents in 1991 to the Congress recommending that they pass laws to protect the privacy of health information, especially in electronic form. That led directly to a number of bills being submitted and ultimately the Kennedy-Kassebaum bill being passed as HIPAA. And I've been a frequent speaker at many HIPAA events. So I have a long history about trying to establish privacy. But having built the largest drug databases in America, if not the world, we discovered in being able to build that, I did it actually with and leveraging many hundreds of thousands of signed authorizations. When presented with the signed authorization under HIPAA, and generally throughout the world, when presented with the signed authorization, the argument is over whether you're going to release the data or not. And therefore, if you look at GDPR in Europe, almost any legal privacy legislation around the globe, if you have the signed authorization, you're golden. That is the line in the sand. And I discovered that in creating these large drug databases, that it acts, the signed authorization actually acts as a forcing function. Those holding your data, that I call source data providers, they are obligated under GDPR and virtually all other initiatives around the globe. When presented with that signed authorization, they're obligated to release the data in compliance with how you have specified in that signed authorization. And I got thinking about access to things like these big drug databases that we created and sold to United Healthcare. I said, you know, you, the individual, you should be in control of who has access to that data, and for that matter, all of my data. My data is everywhere. It's in banks, it's in the phone companies, it's credit card companies, you name it, it's all over the place. I started thinking about how would we enable people to control the access to their data no matter where it is. And having discovered the power and the significant element of having your signed authorization drive the fluidity of your data the way you want it and only the way you want it, I said, what if there were an independent entity that stood in the middle between those who want access to your data and those who are holding your data? But that independent entity, a consent management platform, cannot hold or see your data. That's the fox in charge of the hen house. And so I said, what if there were this independent consent management platform in the middle between those two parties, those holding your data, and what if those holding your data committed to never releasing your data without first checking and getting your consent from this independent consent management platform. And what if they could send a very powerful message to their millions of subscribers, like at Verizon or Bank of America or you name it, those places holding your data? What if they were able to send a very powerful message such as following? We value your privacy. We commit that we will never release your information that we hold without first getting your consent from this independent consent management platform that we've now partnered with, to whereby we will get your consent, and thereby you get to control what we do with your data. You're in control of the data, no matter where it's held. And a lot of people are focused on privacy today, and they're focused on one very small sliver of your internet behavioral data. That's just a very small sliver of actually all of your data. And thereby we anticipate that the source data providers, as I call them, all the banks, the phone companies, tax preparers, you name it, it's all over the landscape. They will be able to partner with MyConsents and take the high road on privacy and actually make more money, because what is MyConsents in the final analysis? It's an ability for you to control all access and uses of your data, but it's also the ultimate permission-based marketing tool. Let me just point out that Facebook, Google, and others totally flipped the ad world a number of years ago on its head by violating your privacy, stealing your data, and leveraging access to your data and making money without your consent. We're going to flip it on its head again the right way by enabling you to be in control of your data and permit those holding your data to take the high road on privacy.
I understand, Richard, you have your VP of Strategy here today, Lynette Williams, and we're going to bring her on in a moment. But Steve, talk to our audience a little bit about his patent and how it came about and how many years left on this.
This patent is unique in many respects because, number one, Richard, back in the year 2004,
Yes.
Applied for this patent, and over the course of 8 years was prosecuted by a leading law firm in the state, spending $500,000 to prosecute this. This is a patent that would be difficult to obtain today. It has 5 years remaining, the year 2026 of May. And this patent has the ability to solve the problems that are faced by the largest tech companies in the nation.
Was the law firm representing some of the tech companies?
No.
Somebody that had some similar competing patent or what?
Well, the issue here, Steve, is Facebook has faced the largest fine in the history of government going after a company.
$5 billion.
$5 billion settlement. And that's just the money portion. There are requirements in the consent decree between Facebook and the U.S. government that require them to report regularly. And then you've got Google that just was sued by the U.S. government with the largest antitrust suit ever. Richard's 978 patent has the potential of solving this problem of consumers not giving their consent and violating their privacy.
Okay, so right now we're going to bring on your VP of Strategy, Lynette Williams. So let's bring her on right now. It is my great pleasure to introduce Lynette Williams to the show. Welcome to the show, Lynette.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
I understand you're the VP of Strategy at MyConsents, correct?
Yes, I am.
Lynette, what does that job entail?
Well, being able to do this strategy has a couple of different areas. So one, it is strategy on how do we get people involved in MyConsents. so that they understand what they're doing and the benefit that it is for them, but also to grow quickly. And then also getting to the business side who are wanting to have that data. So to make it be really successful, we've got to bring both together at the same time, and speed of implementation, of course, is important, because the more members that we have that are providing their data, then it benefits the opposite side, which is the business side, and vice versa.
When I read the review of what MyConsents was doing, I saw that, okay, if everybody's motivated by money, okay? I saw that if a person was able to contain and control their own data and be remunerated for it, they might have a tendency to want to do this. So, as Richard mentioned earlier, it's a win-win situation. How do you convince the Facebooks of the world, the YouTubes, the Googles of the world, as well as the users of their platform, that this is a win-win situation? Present that for me, please.
So one of the benefits for the members is that I'm able to control my data and choose where it's going to be used. It might be something that I'm interested in. Right now, a lot of us get phone calls and marketing things that we really aren't interested in. But if we can turn that around and disrupt the industry so that I can say, these are the things that I'm interested in, and I'm only going to get marketed about that, but I've also given permission for people to market to me, then the businesses say, I need to work with MyConsents, because now I'm not just going out there looking everywhere. I know specifically the people that I'm looking for. They've given their permission for me to market to them, and think how that can change things.
Well, let me ask you this question. Right now, Facebook and YouTube and Google have vast amount of information on individuals, right? Are you saying that they no longer will be able to use this information without an individual's consent?
It's all about that consent. It is truly that. Me being able to control my data means that people won't be able to use that unless they actually have my consent.
I see on some websites today, where you have to agree to whatever the terms are to view their website. If you don't agree, you don't get to look at their website. So does this shut people out initially from Facebook and YouTube and Google using, the most often used browser out there, because they are telling these companies, you can't use my data anymore?
To a point, yes, that will be the case. Richard?
Let me share a perspective on that, and that is it's becoming increasingly obvious that our privacy is of great import to most people across the globe. Hence, that we wouldn't have GDPR, we wouldn't have HIPAA, we wouldn't have Gramm-Leach-Bliley, and so forth, that are designed to protect the privacy of people's sensitive personal information. And I believe that with an independent consent management platform that holds none of your data, what it will enable is every source data provider, every entity holding data about you, will come under increasing pressure, because the public outcry will be for those who elect not to partner with MyConsents, whereby you get to control what we do with your data. People that don't want to move in that direction, the public outcry will be, so what are you doing, Facebook? What are you doing, XYZ, with my data that you don't want me to know about? They will not, in 5 years, they will not be able to survive politically, socially, or financially, because the public outcry, people will act, and they will move to those platforms that do align with this kind of a model.
Lynette, how are you marketing this?
When we go out there, and when we have a couple of different ways that we want to do this, because the fact that we need to get information in quickly. And I think it's first educating the public as to how they can protect their data. Because most people know that it's out there, but they're not really sure where it's being used or how it's being used or what's being used. And they'd be surprised at some of the data that is available that maybe they wouldn't want to be there. So there's an education piece on that. There's also going to organizations that have large numbers of members, and being able to go through those networks to be able to reach large numbers of people. Because like I say, the bigger numbers that we have involved in this, the better it is for all parties.
Okay, you mentioned, Richard, earlier that it's a win-win situation, like for Facebook, for Google and that sort of thing. How right now their business model is built on getting free data, collecting all of this information, making it available to advertisers. Advertisers pay them, and they make trillions. How are they going to make more money going through an independent agency like yours that doesn't hold data? How are they going to make more money having people give consent to them to use their data?
Before I answer that directly, I want to reference one more item here. In getting members, we plan to go to the Verizons of the world, the American Expresses of the world, in each of those kinds of categories, credit cards, banks, and telephone companies, and say to them, Verizon, we want you to help recruit your 154 million subscribers by telling them how you're going to take the high road on privacy. And by the way, with the telephone companies, one of the biggest fiascos was in 2006 when all the Hewlett-Packard board members, all their phone records were stolen and presented illicitly, and there was congressional investigations and so forth on that. We would have prevented that, as some of the board members subsequently have told us about that. And so we will go to those who have many millions of subscribers who will be marketing MyConsents to their millions of members. That's how we will grow membership, because they will make more money and they will be able to take the high road on privacy. Now back to your question. Google, Facebook, none of them know how much I make. They don't know what kind of car that I drive. They don't know anything about my medical conditions, my medical records, my sensitive information in other databases. But by being able to use MyConsents to augment their internet behavioral data, that's all they have, is internet behavioral data. They don't have the access to more comprehensive data that the higher value transactions can then be used, and they get a part of it, a bigger part of it, than they get today. So for example, many do not realize that it takes $2.7 billion to get one new FDA-approved drug onto the market. And it takes 12 years to get there. About 36 months of that 12 years is spent in recruiting individuals into clinical trials that qualify. Well, instead of 36 months that keep the drug off of the market, how about 36 hours? With your consent, we can go and get any information that's relevant to qualify me for clinical trials, and thus the pharma companies can get the drug to market 3 years longer. It'll be on the market, and in a blockbuster drug, that's about $50 billion additional revenue they would not have otherwise gotten. If Facebook and Google can help us in broadcasting that to individuals, they get a piece of that. They will pay many thousands of dollars per person to find you, many thousands. And so being able to leverage the consent to get access to augmented data that the internet companies, such as you've mentioned, getting access to that data will increase the value of the transactions, and thereby they win. It's a win for all.
That's a great idea. Any other strategies you want to share with our audience?
I think one of the big things is that when people find out that they can control their data and that they can then say, this is what I'm interested in, because when we talk about those clinical trials, a lot of times people don't know what's available, but being able to be in a place where I can say, I'd like to raise my hand on that one. I'd like to be a part of this, that, or the other, and know that I'm going to get paid for that. What a nice opportunity for the consumer, because then I'm able to take my data and take advantage of opportunities that I may not know were there otherwise, and I may not have been found. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the consumer as long as we can make sure that we've got the data in the right place and that it's available, but then also for the consumers. And just think about from the marketing side of being able to change it so that I'm only marketing to people who are very interested in whatever my product is. So I think there's a lot of benefits that come from that.
Well, that's a great idea, and I want to thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
So, Steve, tell our audience a little bit about what you're doing for MyConsents, legal work, and that kind of stuff.
Well, the key, right, at this stage is to reduce not only the patent to practice, but to develop relationships with strategic partners and structuring the deals, whether it's the financial side or the technology side.
And this is something that's really going to set the internet world, let's say, on fire initially, right? But they're going to recognize, according to you, that it's a win-win situation. Do you have any parting words for our audience in terms of what they should look forward to and when?
Yes, this is a true game changer and a win for all parties, but especially for individuals to be in control of who has access to and all the uses of their data. And so it enables a whole new threshold of opportunities for permission-based marketing for each individual. And they get to be in control. And one of my favorite statements is, who would have thought that taking the high road on privacy could be so lucrative? By that I mean being able to recognize what's going on today and the tremendous groundswell of concern and legitimate concern about the violations of individual privacy. And that as that continues to grow, and there's solid evidence, especially over the last 2 years, of how that has escalated all over the globe. And hence the reason why people have tried to legislate privacy. Quite frankly, MyConsents will have a greater impact and enforcement of privacy than any legislation could. Why? Because the court of public opinion, what people believe about various entities who are leveraging their data without their consent, they will come under increased scrutiny. But by being compliant with the wishes of and the consents that people have signed to enable the fluidity of their data the way they want it, and only the way they want it, will enrich all parties.
One of the key strategies for Richard's patent is to take that and license it exclusively within industries. For example, the financial industry, the healthcare industry, pharmaceuticals, or other key data providers, and give that licensed within that exclusive license within that industry to be able to keep options open so that all our eggs are not in one basket.
Who within the industry, let's talk about the financial industry, who within that industry licenses?
Credit card companies, banks.
So individual companies who have huge databases.
Yes, the pharmaceutical industry, Pfizer, all of the major players in the pharmaceutical industry could be candidates for an exclusive license.
Wow, that is great. And you know something, I want to thank both of you for being on the show. And we're going to keep tabs on this because this is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.